Yellowstone National Park is the first national park in the United States, and also it is widely held to be the first national park in the world as well. This year, Yellowstone's 150th anniversary was celebrated. From all the national parks we have visited, undoubtedly, Yellowstone is the most amazing park with so many wonders of the nature. Yellowstone National Park sits on top of a dormant volcano and is home to more geysers and hot springs than any other place on Earth. The park is known for its wildlife and its many geothermal features like geysers, hot springs, and mudpots. You can explore mountains, forests, canyons, rivers, and lakes to watch wildlife, including bisons, elks, pronghorns, wolves, bears, coyotes, and birds. It is located primarily in Wyoming and extends into parts of Montana and Idaho. Spans approximately 2.2 million acres, making it one of the largest national parks in the US. We did our Yellowstone trip during a summer. We traveled from Houston. Since we were on budget, we flew to Denver as the tickets were much cheaper, and we rented a car from Denver and drove to the Yellowstone from there. These are some captures during the 9-hour drive from Denver to Yellowstone. The park has 5 entrances from north, northeast, east, south, and west. The drive inside the park consists of 2 loops, the upper loop and the lower loop. We entered the park from the eastern entrance and it was around 3 p.m. We were staying that night at the canyon village inside the park, so we covered the path from the eastern entrance to the canyon village that evening. This is the beautiful Sylvan Lake. On our way to the Yellowstone Lake, on both sides of the road, we could see lots of trees that has been burned down from wildfires. This is the steamboat point at the Yellowstone Lake. Lakebed thermals are not visible from here in the summer, but there are clues on the shore, like steaming shorelines. The volcanic chamber under what is now Yellowstone collapsed roughly 600,000 years ago. This formed the Yellowstone caldera. Part of that caldera was filled by water and became what is known as Yellowstone Lake. Originally, the lake was 200 feet higher than it is today. It reached up into Hayden Valley and to the base of Mount Washburn. Yellowstone Lake is the largest lake in the Yellowstone National Park. The Indian Pond. Quiet water disguises the site of a hydrothermal blowout. Imagine the scene. Tons of rocks, steam and boiling water exploding into the air, leaving the crater that became Indian Pond. Fishing Bridge on the Yellowstone River was named after the original bridge in 1902 that was a popular fishing spot in the park. Before Fishing Bridge closed to fishing in 1973, visitors fished here elbow to elbow. Regulations were changed when park managers realized that fishing from this bridge was decimating the trout population. The mud volcano area. The mud features found here are some of the most acidic in the park. This acidicity plays a part in making them different from most hot springs and geysers. Hydrogen sulfide gas is present deep in the earth at mud volcano. Some microorganisms use this gas as an energy source. They help convert the gas to sulfuric acid, which breaks down rock to wet clay mud. Hydrogen sulfide, steam, carbon dioxide, and other gases explode through the layers of mud. The pungent odor of rotten eggs is caused by the hydrogen sulfide gas. Cooking hillside. A series of shallow earthquakes associated with the volcanic activity in Yellowstone struck this area in 1978. Soil temperature increased to nearly 200 Fahrenheit. This hillside experienced increased heat, causing the vegetation to die. The trees on this hillside are cooked by steam. The mud geyser here used to erupt every few hours in 1800s, but by 1927, eruptions no longer occurred. Churning cauldron. Frothing and fuming as heat and gas rise from Yellowstone's magma chamber, this muddy pool churns and cooks. Shaken again and again by earthquakes, the temperature beneath it rises and falls, transforming the churning cauldron. Mud volcano. Microorganisms or thermophiles use hydrogen sulfide gas as a source of energy and then help turn the gas into sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid breaks down the rock and soil into mud. Various gases escape through the wet clay mud, causing it to bubble. Dragon's Mouth Spring boils out of a deep cave. Gases and steam are released deep in the cave, creating pressure bubbles that explode against the roof of the cave. As this occurs, it creates a kind of booming and crackling noise that is echoed through the cave and can be heard from the boardroom. The sound resembles the growling of an animal. Due to the high temperature of the water, large amounts of steam rise from the mouth of the cave, giving the impression of smoke billowing from the mouth of a dragon. Sulfur cauldron is one of the most acidic hot springs in Yellowstone. Sulfur cauldron's turbulent water have a pH of approximately 1 to 2, which is similar to carbonic acid. Sulfur cauldron sits on the edge of one of the most active areas of Yellowstone's buried volcano. As we were passing by the Hayden Valley, we could see herds of bisons. The American bison symbolizes the spirit of the West. Hayden Valley, with its broad expanse of grasses and sedges, has been a home to bisons for thousands of years. In August, the valley is the scene of the largest free-roaming bison rut that occurs in the North America. Also, bison traffic is a common thing in the Yellowstone roads. Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. It is a canyon which is about 1,000 feet deep and about 20 miles long. This canyon is special due to its different colors like red, yellow, pink, and white. The red color is coming from the iron which is rusty. And there is geothermal activities happening underneath the walls. Yellowstone Falls consist of two major waterfalls on the Yellowstone River. As the Yellowstone River flows north from Yellowstone Lake, it leaves the Hayden Valley and plunges first over the upper Yellowstone Falls, and then a quarter mile downstream over lower Yellowstone Falls, at which point it then enters the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone, which is up to 1,000 feet deep. This is the lower falls, plunging 308 feet, framed by canyon walls. The upper falls. Here, the volcanic and hydrothermal activities have created the 190 feet upper falls. Elks are the most abundant large mammals found in Yellowstone. Elk is one of the largest species of deer family. Male elk has large antlers which are shed each year. We stayed the night at the canyon village, and at sunrise we went to the Washburn hot spring overlook. After that we went to the Hayden Valley to watch wildlife in the early morning. Hayden Valley. This valley, centrally located in Yellowstone National Park, is the first place to go to see wildlife in Yellowstone. As you drive along this beautiful broad valley, you are likely to see herds of bisons, scattered elks, and the occasional grizzly bear, and also wolves, coyotes, and dozens of bird species call Hayden Valley home. The best time to see wildlife is in the early mornings or early evenings. Grizzly bears may be seen in the spring and early summer preying upon newborn bison and elk calves. Bisons are often seen in the spring all the way through the fall rut. Coyotes and foxes are often seen in the valley. Winter is the best time to spot a wolf. These are some captures at the Calcite Springs Overlook. Tower Fall is a scenic waterfall tumbling into the Yellowstone River. The fall plunges a stunning 132 feet. The unusual rock columns north of the fall were created by lava flow that cracked as it cooled. In the afternoon, we covered the Midway Geyser Basin, the Upper Geyser Basin, the Lower Geyser Basin, and the Norris Geyser Basin. On our way to these geyser basins from the canyon village side, we could see this board closer to the Norris Geyser Basin area. The Yellowstone fires of 1988 together form the largest wildfire in the recorded history of the Yellowstone National Park. These are some of the leftovers from that fire, which destroyed 36% of the park, that is about 794,000 acres. First, we visited the Midway Geyser Basin. It is small but spectacular. The geysers and pools are mostly concentrated around the Firehole River. Excelsior Geyser. It has been dormant since the 1880s except for one long eruption in 1985 when it spouted water for 2 days at a height of 20 to 80 feet. Today it is considered a hot spring and discharges over 4,000 gallons of hot water per minute right into the Firehole River. Turquoise Pool. It was named from the tint of the water, which is the blue of the turquoise. It remains true to its name today. Opal Pool. Though usually active as a hot spring, Opal Pool is considered a fountain-type geyser. Grand Prismatic Spring. Yellowstone's largest hot spring is 200 to 330 feet in diameter and more than 121 feet deep. The Grand Prismatic Spring is on top of a large mound with step-like terraces around it. It is the largest hot spring in North America. Heat-loving photosynthetic microbes known as Formidium and Cyanococcus live in mats along Grand Prismatic Spring's runoff channels. This area seems to get cloudy with steam in the morning. We recommend going there in the afternoon, even though the parking can be crowded. If you take the Ferry Fall Trail, roughly 1 mile into it, there is a side trail that takes you to the Grand Prismatic Spring overlook. This is the view from there. We went there around 3 p.m. Silent Pool. After crossing the Firehole River, the Ferry Falls Trail passes the Silent Pool, a former geyser. Indeed, now it is a silent pool, and it is silently suffering from the debris people have thrown into it. Next, we visited the Upper Geyser Basin. The hydrothermal basin, perhaps most well known in the park due to hosting Yellowstone's iconic geyser, the Old Faithful. The highest concentration of geysers in the world exists here. The Old Faithful geyser is the world's best known geyser. It erupts more frequently than any of the other big geysers, although it is not the largest or most regular geyser in Yellowstone National Park. Its average interval between eruptions is about 90 minutes, varying from 50 to 127 minutes. An eruption lasts 1.5 to 5 minutes and expels 3,700 to 8,400 gallons of boiling water and reaches a height of 106 to 184 feet. The next predicted eruption is posted in a number of locations around the geyser. Every geyser has its own unique eruption indicators. For most of the interval, steam gently billows from Old Faithful's core. A few minutes before an eruption, intermittent jets of spray spurt a few feet above the surface. Unpredictability is the pattern in Yellowstone geyser basins. Old Faithful's relatively predictable intervals are the exception. No two eruptions are the same. The height and the duration may vary. Because the duration of All Faithful's last eruption determines the time between eruptions, only the next discharge can be predicted. Black Sand Basin. Black obsidian sand or the volcanic glass give this geyser basin its name. Orange, green, and other colors in and around the hot springs come from thermophiles. This is located within the upper geyser basin. Jagged Spring and the Ragged Spring. These two small geysers are playing almost constant. The one closer to the boardwalk is Jagged Spring, which is not only splashing weakly but sends out single jets of water up to 10 feet height from time to time. Ragged Spring adjoins Jagged Spring on the other side. It splashes approximately 3 feet high. This is the Cinnamon Spout, a geyser with nearly perpetual activity. Cliff Geyser. The Cliff Geyser erupts every few minutes and can reach heights of 30 feet. It's a fountain geyser, which means it erupts from a pool. When this crater fills with boiling water, you know an eruption is about to take place. Green Spring is the largest spring in Black Sand Basin. On rare occasions, it erupts as a geyser up to 12 feet high. The Handkerchief Pool. Today nearly forgotten, but at the beginning of the 20th century, it was one of the most famous attractions of Yellowstone. The Emerald Pool. Deep emerald colors blend amidst the orange and yellow fringes that form the outer ring of the pool. Rainbow Pool. Weave the colors of a rainbow along the edges of this pool. Rainbow Pool rarely erupts, but when it did in 1948, it shot to a height of 25 feet. Sunset Lake, a large colorful pool. Sunset Lake is deep and blue at the center. Biscuit Basin is particularly volatile and unpredictable. Biscuit Basin was named for the unusual biscuit-like deposits that used to surround the sapphire pool. Avoca Spring is a stronger spouter with major eruptions up to 25 feet high. Recovery after a major eruption lasts half an hour in maximum, then the next minus occurs at intervals of 1 minute. Mustard Springs. The East Mustard Spring plays as a geyser every few minutes up to 10 feet high. Black Pearl Geyser has been dormant since 1967. The Jewel Geyser's beaded sinter formations are really impressive. Jewel is a very frequent performer, showing an interval of approximately 8 minutes. Sapphire Pool. After the 1959 earthquake, it erupted up to 125 feet high, blasting away almost all of the biscuit-shaped sinter aggregations along the rim. It continued playing with decreasing vigor up until 1971. The exceptionally deep blue spring has been dormant since then. A short interrupt occurred in 1991. Shell spring. The rolling geyserite structure is vaguely reminiscent of a giant clam's shell. The accordingly named shell spring is a cyclic geyser with several hours of recovery between the long-lasting active phases. Lower Geyser Basin. This is the largest geyser basin in Yellowstone, spanning about 11 square miles. It consists of a flat plain interspersed with meadows and stands of lodgepole pine, with the Firehole River flowing through the central part of the basin. Firehole Spring, one of the most colorful pools of Yellowstone, shows more or less perpetual spouting caused by a combination of superheated boiling and some large rising steam and gas bubbles. Surprise Pool is served by an on turnout. It is boiling but has never been seen erupting. Great Fountain Geyser. Eruptions average 100 feet high with some rare superbursts of 200 feet or more. White Dome Geyser's beautifully shaped cone is many centuries old and is still growing with each eruption. For hundreds of years, thermal water has been built in the cone, one of the largest in Yellowstone. Fountain Paint Pot. The fountain paint pot is named for the reds, yellows, and browns of the mud in the area. The differing colors are derived from the oxidation states of the iron in the mud. Since it was getting late, we didn't cover that trail. Gibbons Falls. It drops 84 feet over a remnant of the Yellowstone caldera rim. Next, we went to the Norris Geyser Basin. It is the hottest, oldest, and most dynamic of Yellowstone's thermal areas. The Steamboat Geyser is the world's tallest active geyser. When it erupts, it can rocket a column of scalding water 300 feet into the air, which is 2 or 3 times the average height of the Old Faithful. Major eruptions occur 4 days to 50 years apart. We stayed the night at the Mammoth Hot Spring cabins inside the park and then visited the Mammoth Hot Springs next day morning. It has two terrace boardwalks, the upper and the lower. These terraces change constantly, sometimes noticeable within a day. Mammoth Hot Springs is a large complex of hot springs on a hill of travertine. It was created over thousands of years as hot water from the spring cooled and deposited calcium carbonate. Liberty Cap is a dormant hot spring core. It is 37 feet tall. It was created by a hot spring that was active in one location for a long time. Its internal pressure was sufficient to raise the water to a great height, allowing mineral deposits to build slowly and continuously for perhaps hundreds of years. Palette Hot Spring. This is one of the most colorful and beautiful areas in the Mammoth Hot Springs. Water flows in crisscrossing patterns down a steep ridge where colorful thermophiles create the changing palette dominated by hues of orange and brown. The black cone there is the devil's thumb, which is a dormant hot spring cone.
But over here, like the picture in the bathroom, this is all water.
This is the Mount Spring from top. Orange Spring Mount is so named for its color, which is created by bacteria and algae, and shape, which is a result of very slow water flow and mineral deposition. Tangerine Spring is one of the cones of Orange Spring Mount, but has gotten an own name. Highly unpredictable Angel Terrace is known for its pure white formations and the colorful microorganisms seen in its active periods. This is the Canary Spring. That was the last thermal feature of our Yellowstone trip. Then we left the Yellowstone National Park at around 9 a.m. in that morning after covering the Mammoth Hot Springs. We headed to the Glacier National Park from there and we exited the park through the north entrance where the Roosevelt Arch is built. Even though we spent less than 2 days there, we recommend spending at least 3 days in the Yellowstone Park so you could visit more places and do more trails than we did. For all the details about the park, please visit the National Park Service's website. You can find lots of information there, including maps and all the other details, and also they update about all the road closures and other conditions we need to be aware when visiting the park. Please make sure to follow their instructions about approaching wildlife and about staying on boardwalks when watching the thermal features, as both these can be a threat to your life. Also, don't forget to book your hotels within the park well in advance. Thank you for watching.